My name is Devan I'm a writer, an inventor, make my living working at the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office.
My name's Dale Klaus, from St. Louis, lived there all my life. I guess I started to be a designer and an artist, turned into pretty much a businessman, doing a lot of different things, trying to incorporate creative aspects, and things that I could do to create, be creative and make money to support my family.
And I come from Southern California. I grew up there until later in life when I moved to the East Coast. I have a wife and two small boys, 7-year-old and a 4-year-old. A lot of boys in the house and lots of crazy loud noises all the time.
Well, I really got two families, one marriage and two marriages. So I consider my first family. I was married very young, got out of the Army, and figured it was a thing to do. So first one in my peer group to get married. I was married for 18 years, had two wonderful children, and then just decided I wanted to do something different in my life. So I got married a second time and had a great stepson. You know, my oldest son and I got, my first divorce was when he was 16, which was probably a very problematic time for him. He was involved in different things, and I was at that time so involved in trying to get my foot started and make money in my business. And I didn't spend a lot of time with my family, which when I look back on it was probably a mistake. And actually my first divorce was probably a very good thing for my daughter, because every Thursday we would have, our time. And no matter what happened on Thursdays, her and I would always go out to eat, we'd do something. So we had really quality time. This is crazy. I feel like I'm very blessed. I've got a lot of great people around me, and I'm very happy with my life. Feminism today is more like equal rights. Don't treat men different than women. I'm still of a generation that I'm going to treat women with respect, because if they could just about do anything to me, and I probably wouldn't smack him or do anything like that, but if a guy did some things to me, maybe I'd hit him. I wouldn't do that to women. So there's a difference in my mind. I think a lot of feminists today don't want to see any difference, and I have a hard time relating to that.
My thoughts around feminism still are probably what I see a lot of feminists doing, pushing the work of bringing women back to their inherently powerful place. But I think for me, feminism does go a little bit more just from my perspective, that I feel like I have a lot of female attributes, and I envision this world where power isn't only strength, I should say, but that as women are given their place back in society to be moved up, that also these characteristics and attributes of commonly associated with females can now be something that can be given to anybody. Like, so if I want to be empathetic or if I want to be vulnerable, it's not seen as a weakness for a man, I think.
Just basically treating other humans with respect. Opportunities should be the same, depending on what the opportunity might be and what a human being, be it man or woman, wants to make of that opportunity, and their ability to recognize other opportunities to better themselves for whatever reason, make their life better, make more money, all kinds of reasons. Everybody has a different goal in life, I think.
Before I was working at the current job I was at, and I was looking at applying at some internal positions and then some outside positions, I felt very powerful to say, like, I'm worthy of all these positions. There were like 5 or 6 of them that I was applying for, and I felt like I could do any one of these. And even going into the interviews, I felt like I didn't feel like afraid at all. I felt like I could just speak my way into these positions because I was worthy of these positions. And I think even in those moments, I was like aware of that this is like a male trait from our society, something that's been kind of given to us or handed down from generation to generation, say that this is where you belong in our society.
In my parents' peers, there was the mothers never really worked and had a full-time job like the fathers did, and to my knowledge and what I remember, because my mom was always there. The friends' mothers that I knew were always there. It was, like I say, like a Leave It to Beaver family. Joan Cleaver didn't work. Walter came home from his office and she always had dinner on the table. So that was what I was brought up in. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the way I was taught was right. Things change, and I can just remember my dad thinking the world's going to hell in a handbasket. I remember him saying that, and I can relate to those thoughts now. So, it's just, I look at men being stronger to do stronger things. Back when I was a kid, you never saw a girl in construction. Today, there's girls in construction. The differences are getting more blurry. I don't have a problem with it. I'm not sure that if I was a woman, I would want to be a construction worker. But would I want to be saddled into a housewife if I wanted to go and make it a job and do something to better the world?
Because of how I was raised and what I've seen from society, I'm very intentional, especially with my oldest boy. But with both of them, as they grow older, I plan to be very intentional about hoping to communicate that they can be who they are. And there doesn't necessarily have to be masculine or feminine as we've seen it in the past, but that you can have both. And we all have pieces of being masculine and feminine. That if you want to be vulnerable, that you should be vulnerable. And being vulnerable is a form of strength because you're taking down your walls to invite people in to things that you might be insecure about, which is actually a lot harder to do than creating these walls and saying, I'm tough. So I hope to communicate to both of them, and like I said, especially my oldest son, that you can open up and you don't have to be displayed as being strong or a wall. There's other forms of strength.
It's feminism and masculinism to me are not definable. It's hard for me to relate to that because I'm certainly brought up being a boy. I never felt like I wanted to be anything other than a boy. Am I as masculine as some boys? No, probably not. My emotions are on my fingertips. That's not a masculine thing, but sometimes I'm embarrassed about it, sometimes I'm not, because I'm emotional. Okay, my mom used to call me lover boy. So I would much rather love in this world. When your eyes water up and you are talking to somebody and you start to do this, it's a feeling, and it's not characteristic of men. Okay, so I try to suppress it, but it doesn't work very well. So I am what I am. And I've learned to accept it and not really become embarrassed about it. It's just what I am.
Growing up in this society, I think I didn't realize I had a choice until maybe just a few years ago. Men have to be like strong, closed up, very aggressive. And I have some of those traits, and sometimes that's who I am, but I think a lot of the times I have a lot more inner things like empathy and things where I want to be very soft in nature. But growing up, I think I suppressed a lot of those things because they weren't seen as manly, I think. So I think more recently, since gender roles have been, or stereotypes have been kind of getting thrown out the window more, I felt more comfortable being more of myself to open up and be vulnerable and not always have to feel like you're perfect or strong, like by our society standards at least.
Anytime you want to make a pose or whatever, you know that you can.
This is just me.
I know.
Okay, and it's the way I am, and I've come to accept it. It's crazy. It's crazy. I know it's crazy, but I can't stop it.
Was it like, were you always, anytime you talk about feelings and deep things or love?
Very emotional. I don't remember it being like this. I was probably a very, very sheltered child. Yeah, my mother was very strong-minded, and she ruled the roost. My father worked second shift, so I saw him on weekends, and that's about it. We didn't have a lot of money. My dad worked in a factory. My mom, she didn't have a real, permanent job. She was a housewife and a mother first. But as I got older, she worked down the street in the State Farm Insurance office, but she was always close by. And so, we had to always watch what we bought. My parents were very, very thrifty, saved their money, so they always had food on the table. A lot of people from that generation, you put food on your plate, you cleaned your plate, and if you didn't, your plate came out, and before you started the next meal, you ate what was left on the plate from your last meal. But I remember fried chicken every Sunday, mashed potatoes. It was fish sticks on Fridays and that kind of thing. I lived in a Leave It to Beaver neighborhood, so my family upbringing, I think, was extremely strong. I was guided very much, and I was always in bed by 9:30. Even when I was a teenager, I was in bed by 9:30. I didn't do a lot of the things that my friends did when they were teenagers, which is, I think that was to my detriment, quite honestly, because I didn't experience a lot of things that teenagers do today, and it's probably why I went to college for 2 years, and that was during Vietnam, and my number was 90 something. I can't remember exactly what, but so I knew where I was going, and so I joined the Army Reserves. And when I got out of that, I thought I needed to get married, which is what I did. In retrospect, look, I had 2 wonderful children. I don't regret my first life, I call it. But I think my life would have been a lot different if I would have had a much wider perspective on things and not been so sheltered, and maybe just waited longer would have done it. Being more knowledgeable about life and things